it's Russia, but didn't particularly harm us. On the question of American businesses in Russia, the biggest delegation at the Pittsburgh Economic Forum was from the US. As far as restrictions and sanctions are concerned on American companies, they're the ones suffering the real damage. And, you know, they've lost that advantage to other countries. What is the point of all that, we ask? But there is damage, there is loss nonetheless. The trade has actually gone up in the first quarter of this year by 16.1%. Let's hope that that will increase and continue. Okay, let's have a couple of questions over here and a couple of questions over there. The lady there.
Anne Simmons, Wall Street Journal. Господин президент, спасибо большое, что у меня есть возможность задать вопрос.
For the opportunity of taking the floor. A couple of years ago, you met President Biden when he was vice president, and he said that he looked at you in the eyes and he saw no soul there. And you said that means that we understand each other. Tell us, what did you see when you looked at him in the eyes? And do you think he's a man you can work with? And tell me, did President Biden invite you to the White House? And if so, did you agree to go there? He did not invite me to the White House, and no invitation of that kind was given. I think we really have the right conditions before we can get to that stage. As far as looking in eyes and finding souls are concerned, well, I actually don't remember that, but this is not the first time I've heard that statement. But if you ask me what kind of partner or interlocutor President Biden is, I would say that he is very balanced, professional man. It's obviously clear that he's very experienced. He talked a bit about his family. And what his mother told him. They are important things. Maybe they're not quite relevant, but it does talk about the level of his moral values, which is very attractive. And it seems to me that we did speak the same language. Certainly doesn't imply that we must look into each other's eyes and find a soul or swear eternal friendship. But essentially, our talks were pragmatic. Question over there, please.
Andrei Kolesnikov,
Kommersant newspaper. Vladimir Vladimirovich,
у вас появились какие-то новые иллюзии?
Have you got some new illusions as a result of these negotiations? I didn't have any to begin with. Why are you talking about illusions? There are no illusions. I have no illusions. Let's go on to the next question. Give him the microphone. Give the lady the microphone, please.
Здравствуйте, Павел Ремнев, телеканал «Звезда». Владимир Владимирович, два вопроса.
Two questions about global change, climate change. Did you talk about that with President Biden? And on America American media. You gave a long interview to NBC. Do you think that is right, that you did that, whereas Biden didn't give our Russian journalists the same kind of advantage? Well, on the question of distortions or omissions and cyber attacks and so on and so forth, I think that's, the praxis of international relations in the present world. I'm quite used to that, and I've become used to it over the years, for decades now. But as far as who
you're watching early start of Coffee and Bong Hits, powered by the crypto token. This is breaking news because Vladimir Putin and Joe Biden just met in Helsinki, and they decided to give separate press conferences. Here's Vladimir Putin's. He is eating America up. Oh, sorry, my microphone's the wrong side. He's eating America up. He's like, why would you talk about Russia when you murder people in their houses? When you kill people with helicopters? Like, oh shit, I'm going live early. So here we are. Thanks for coming.
Free Europe's in Free European Radio Feed in Russia, which we said was a foreign agent. I think that my colleagues don't actually know that before that, two very important
I gotta go feed the birds. I'll be right back.
And Sputnik, they actually were declared foreign agents. We replied in like. And they registered and so on, and they stuck to American legislation. It created all kinds of problems with staffing and so on and so forth. But we don't have those kind of problems. And unfortunately, the American media does not actually comply with all the provisions of Russian legislation in that respect. And I hope that we will be able to make progress on that through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I meant the lady, actually, but you can go afterwards, maybe. Thank you very much. Euronews. We've all seen how you shook Joe Biden's hand, and we just wonder to what extent you have now got to a new level of trust. Do you think that at this present stage we can talk about a new stage of bilateral relations? There is no happiness in life. There's only a mirage of it on the horizon. So, cherish that. There's hardly sort of, family trust, but I think there is a spark of hope in his eyes. Give the microphone over there, please. Ivan Blagoy, first channel. Coronavirus is one of the most important topics at the moment. Did you actually talk about that at these negotiations? And if so, did you talk about any kind of joint work with the Americans? Did you talk about reciprocal use of vaccines and so on and so forth? We did mention it. As you know, the former administration, well, the Russian side sent our technical staff and offered our assistance. And even though America is a very advanced country and so on, they needed help at that moment, and we provided it. And we
Oh shit! Did CNN decide to just stop helping people? Okay. Hey, welcome to Coffee and Bong Hits, everybody. I'm Jesse Sponberg. It's an early start, so forgive me for running a little late. You caught me in between my water drink, my orange juice drink, and then my coffee drink. So the coffee's perking right now. I'd show you, but that would involve moving the pot from the coffee. I am bathed. I am I'm not fed, but the birds are fed. Yo, we got here, let me fix this real quick. It's weird because there we go. I can hear myself a little better now. Let's fix this. CNN is just like, bro, you don't get no free cable. I don't know why they did that. Let me find it on YouTube because it's probably still happening. Yes.
Without.
Hold on. I'll get us to it right now. Thanks to NBC News.
From the set gender.
Oh.
Like I said, neither us nor United States have tried to exert any pressure. But this was not the point of the meeting. And the score, okay, the score. Well, I think before we met President Biden that this is not a competition event, and I fully dovetail with him. Are we going to really set the score? This was a productive meeting. It was fruitful. It was to the point. And it took place in an atmosphere that was actually enabling to create, to accomplish something. And the most important thing is the glimpses of confidence and hope that we had. BBC News, please. Mr. President, Joe Biden calls for a stable and predictable relationship with Russia. However, the West believes that unpredictability is an inherent trait of the Russian policy. Are you ready to forego instability in order to improve the relationship with the West? Well, quite a compilator. It was difficult to follow the logic. I'm really envious. I mean, it's like a contradiction of terms. You said the West believes, and then the second part. Are you ready to forego this? Well, if the West believes this, that doesn't mean that this is the objective truth. So let me address your question in parts to dissect it. You said that the West believes that Russian policy is unpredictable. Well, let me reciprocate. The US withdrawal from the APM treaty in 2002 was unpredictable. Why would they do that? And disrupt and undermine the basis of the strategic stability. Then the 9F treaty withdrawal in 2019. Is that what you call stability? The Open Skies Agreement withdrawal, is that what you call stability? There's almost no legs to stand upon. Well, thankfully, the START treaty was safe, and I'm grateful that President Biden has made a wise decision to extend the new START treaty for 5 years. Now, take the situation in and around Ukraine, the Crimea. This was where it all started, right? Okay, let me plant the question. What was stable about supporting a coup d'etat, an uprising in Ukraine? I mean, the President Yanukovych was ready to announce new elections. He agreed with all the demands. No, it wouldn't work. You'd have to go with the coup, the ramifications that follow, the Crimea, the east of Ukraine. And you're saying that we are seeking the instability? Well, I don't think so. In my mind, we see differently. We don't think in these terms. We think that we are trying to create stability, but for the situation to be stable, we need an agreed set rules of conduct across all areas: the strategic stability, the cybersecurity, the regional conflicts. I think that we can agree on these things, and I have an impression that we can agree. let us draw this to a wrap it up. I'm sorry, can't hear. Speak to the mic, please. To the mic, please. What? Blue Fog, the popular tunes? Let's do something, speak something intelligible and reasonable. Bloomberg, please. And we'll wrap it up then. Final question to the lady. Bloomberg News, Ilya Arkhivov. In 2016, after you met Trump, a new set of American sanctions was quickly imposed. What about this round of negotiations? Have you got any assurances that there will be no new sanctions in the near term coming from the United States? And then you said about the glimpses of hope. Do you have any ideas on how feasible it is to expect that President Biden would be able to deliver, to follow through on the promises? I mean, it's believed that the American political apparatus is actually showing more solidarity with President Biden than it showed during President Trump's presidency. So, all right, you've agreed on consultations on cybersecurity, on Ukraine. Do you think there will be any working groups established? Do you think any red lines will be respected? Can you describe something? I think I've spoke about the red lines at length. You see, the understanding and confidence in this is created. It stems from negotiations. There's no reason to meet each other and threaten and to exchange, trade, verbal attacks. That's not the point. The restrictions, the sanctions, is something I've brought up already. We don't know what's brewing in the American political apparatus. I mean, we know the broad strokes, the currents, but we don't know the details. There are probably opponents and proponents of developing better relations with Russia. Who will prevail? It's difficult to say. Hopefully, steps will be taken after this summit. Well, hopefully, one might think so. But it would only mean a missed opportunity if it happens. And the final question to a journalist from Canada. Раз, два, три, четыре. Есть перевод? Русский перевод. Русский перевод.
Matt, if you guys can see how many birds are outside my house right now.
Раз, два, три, четыре, пять.
Man, think how many press conferences Putin's done in his life. That dude is always the president of Russia. I was listening the other day. The only person Putin really disrespects is Mikhail Gorbachev, because Mikhail Gorbachev, when I was like a kid, he let the USSR break up, right? So the dissolution of the United Soviet Socialist Republics, I think it was called when I was a kid. Right, Jesse B, you ain't lying, G. I wish the audio would come up.
Well, it's a great thing that your 9-year-old is actually interested in these things, and the answer is pretty simple. You've got to look around and just think to yourself, it's a wonderful world. I mean, the grown-ups, these adults, leaders of two major nuclear countries, are meeting to try to make this world a safer place, a secure place, a prospering place to live for many people, from across the globe. They will discuss the stuff about the horrible weapons that can kill us all, that has to be somehow prevented from. They will discuss nature, how to make rivers clean, how to make seas clean, how to stop floods and droughts, how to make sure everybody has plenty of food to eat for anyone on the globe. What else will they discuss? They will discuss health and medicine so that when kids grow up, they will be healthy. They can study and have a bright future, and I wish very much. So this meeting will be covered with these ideas in mind. Thank you.
Yo, that was Vladimir Putin, the baddest motherfucker on the planet. He just ran a press conference like somebody that's been doing it for 20 years or so. I am Jesse Sponberg. This is Coffee and Bong Hits. So I assume that in a minute, NBC is going to pop up with some newscasters. I'm going to let them talk. They were a little closer to the action. I know it says the stream has concluded, so that might be the end of the rail. But let's see what Washington Post has up.
When he's asked
difficult
questions about repressing
okay.
his political opponents.
Hold on, let me just switch up.
The Capitol riot. Things of that sort. This
is important. Hold on.
Matter and that in American cities people get killed every day.
This is important. Keep watching.
Deflect from having to answer those tough questions on what's going on in his own country. As far as things that we could say tangibly seems been accomplished during the summit, he mentioned that the ambassadors for each country would be returning to their posts, maybe not immediately, but that's getting worked out. And that's
Good morning, Sarah.
The lowest hanging fruit that was sort of accomplished. And also on the subject of a prisoner swap, that the State Department and the Russian Foreign Ministry are going to be working on that. So that seems to maybe have been some progress made as far as
that nice lady's a little bit loud. I'm going to let you talk to her real quick.
And presumably Russia getting someone back.
My pot of coffee is done. Look, I'm right on time. We might have started the show early, but it's 9:45 and my pot of coffee is done. I'm almost done with my orange juice. You don't see this part of the show all the time, but here it is.
He also talked about climate change.
Smoking a bowl.
There was no hostility.
And then I welcome you guys into my life at 10 o'clock.
Talked about their family.
But today,
one thing that I did notice is that this press conference last
you got the little seal extra.
Is correct. Here in DC, it started around 11:50.
So Joe Biden is going to speak in a little bit. Putin just spoke.
Is this a part of Putin's strategy to sort of present himself as a world player? He spoke really at length and seemed to relish it. Was that your finding too?
Yeah, and I think it was notable that he kind of was going out of his way to take questions from foreign press. There were a few times where he said, let's go to a foreign media member. And I think that's, usually a little unusual when at his end of year press conference every year, when he's got, 4.5 hours and he's talking on and on and on. Usually you get one, maybe two, foreign questions in there. So the fact that he was really trying to get those in today, I think he was really kind of wanted this platform to go on his whataboutism sort of rants and, also kind of get his position out. He knows that this is going to kind of play favorably for him when it gets aired on Russia's state TV, and, the clips that he likes or wants to be out there, will be the ones aired. But also, I think he knows that U.S. networks are airing this as well, and he touched on a lot of issues that are sensitive to the American public.
And Olivier Knox is also with us. Olivier, tell me what is one of your takeaways from what we just heard from Vladimir Putin, and also what are you going to be watching for when we see President Biden come on the stage?
in the days ahead of this summit in Geneva, Putin and his government had basically two big, broad messages. And those messages were, I will not be challenged at home, and I must be taken seriously on the world stage. And that is a lot of some of the takeaways from the Putin press conference. Isabel covered the substance very well. Of course, I would say it was interesting how much praise he lavished on Biden's personal style, calling the talks constructive, saying that there was no pressure from the American president in their face-to-face meeting. I expect to hear President Biden contradict that and say that he delivered a forceful message on things like cyber warfare and human rights and the like. But I feel like the overall tone of the Putin press conference had still kept those two messages very much alive. That's part of why you heard as much whataboutism as you did. It was the idea that the challenges to his legitimacy, the challenges to the way he runs Russia are not legitimate. And on the world stage, it's in his interest to say he had a constructive meeting with the American president. It's in his interest to say that they have made some tentative progress in a few areas. The return of the ambassadors, is one of those little baby steps, right, that they can both point to as a constructive outcome of this summit. In terms of the Biden press conference, again, I do want to hear his characterization of whether he, in fact, did put pressure on Vladimir Putin on a range of issues, as he has promised now for days and weeks. That'll be important. And then the conversation about...
This is like a rap battle. I wonder how they chose who went first, right? Because Putin went first and he dropped fire. He was talking about police killings and storming the Capitol and the treatment of the Black Lives Matter movement. It was like, don't come to Russia talking about poison underwear. Hey, y'all know about the poison underwear? Do you understand that that's why, that's how they got that last dude? Here, let me make sure this lady isn't saying something we need to know. Hold on.
He has wanted to tell Putin, but how has the White House prepared him for the speech he's about to make?
He's been given on this trip so far, or received rather, a number of questions what his strategy was.
Oh, damn.
Negotiating with Putin, what he plans to say, what he plans to convey about red lines. And he basically said, I'm not going to negotiate, in public on the world stage in advance of this meeting. There was an interesting moment.
You know what?
Where he was asked, why not just do as former President Trump did? A joint press conference between the. Sorry, I'm getting asked some news to the press conference. But briefly, he was asked by us to do a joint press conference between the two of them, and his answer basically was that he would give his version, and then Vladimir Putin would give his version. There would basically be two competing versions. So obviously, he is sort of setting the stage to counter whatever it is he thought was problematic with what we just heard from the Russian president.
This is Joe Biden's big money moment, man.
We understand that. Thank you, Ashley.
Look, what's crazy is most of you people aren't going to watch this, right? You're not going to watch this press conference. You didn't watch Vladimir Putin press conference. You're not going to watch the news about the press conference, but you're going to see a meme made by one of your dumbass Facebook friends, and you're going to take that as what happened. Right? That's why I always end up saying, I told you people weeks ago, I told you people months ago, I told you people years ago. Pay attention. There's a world out here. There shouldn't be a job for a guy like me telling people the news, because people should know the news themselves. Holy shit. Like, this shit is right here on the goddamn internet for you. Good morning, Corey Casburn. Yo, who's the early bird crew? Erica, Jesse, Erica, Sage, Nathan, Sarah, Corey. Yo, shout out to the early bird crew. You guys got to see me in my element. You got to see me drinking the orange juice. Man, coffee is a drug, bro. Like, what's crazy is Folgers is the most gangster shit in the game. People are like, my 4-shot espresso.
Let's go to politics reporter Joyce Coe.
When I have an espresso, I don't even really feel that stuff. But man, if you give me some Folgers coffee, boing, boing. When people are like, you want espresso? I'm like, no, thank you. I do real drugs. But this is Joe Biden's big moment right here. This is his 8 Mile. Remember last time Eminem got him pumped up?
Biden's responses were very different, that he had different answers to those questions. And some surprising moments that I found throughout the length of this press conference was just how complimentary President Putin was of President Biden, saying that that Biden was balanced and experienced. He also said that Biden had talked to him about his family. He talked about his mother. And he said that it, quote, shows the extent of his moral values and that being quite attractive. He went on to say that the relationship is a pragmatic one primarily. Take a listen to how else Putin characterized Biden in contrast to his predecessor, Donald Trump.
This was his initiative. We met, and once again, the conversation was quite constructive, and I once again understood that President Biden is an experienced statesman. Our one-on-one conversation took almost 2 hours. It's not every world leader that gets this amount of attention. I mean, his predecessor was asked the same question. He evaded this. This president decided to respond to the question directly. And in this, he is very different from President Trump.
And we know that going into this foreign trip, President Biden had really gone in with the intention to set up the optics to really contrast to President Trump, to make no question of the fact that this is a different leader, this is a different president representing the country. But, you know, what I found was interesting is that what Putin had to say about Biden's approach to that conversation was reflective of what we have heard from Biden and his approach to foreign policy, really being rooted in relationships. This is not the first time these two have sat down for a meeting. They met back when Biden was vice president as well. So I think it'll be interesting to hear what Biden has to say during his press conference and whether or not he characterizes the meeting and sort of the tone of what Putin says was not a hostile tone of the meeting, if he characterizes it in the same way.
Thanks so much, Joyce. Olivia, I want to get you in on something that Joyce was bringing up, the comparisons between how Trump handled his Helsinki summit with Biden back in 2018, or with Putin in 2018, and how Biden approached this one now. How much do you think weighed in the decision-making of the White House and how this event was crafted in regards to how we all remember how Trump handled his summit? Was Trump really sort of looming over this entire summit?
Well, I don't know how much the sort of the specter of Donald Trump's handling of U.S. relations was loomed over the White House's preparation. You know, they've got their own approach. Joe Biden's been on the world stage for decades. You heard Vladimir Putin's description of him as sort of this savvy elder statesman figure. Obviously, in terms of the coverage and the expectations, we all do remember the Helsinki summit. We remember President Trump at the time throwing U.S. intelligence agencies under the bus and essentially accepting Vladimir Putin's denials that he had any role in, that Russia had any role in interfering in the 2016 elections. So obviously the contrast is there, but it's obviously built in too. There was never any risk that Joe Biden was going to have a summit and then a press conference that looked anything like Helsinki. This White House will be delighted, though, to see contrasts being drawn, and they will go out of their way, I think, to show how different they were. One of the ways they've done that is by not having a joint press conference, by not giving Vladimir Putin the opportunity to say what he said today to Joe Biden's face, by giving the American president his own podium, his own platform, his own time. So I think it is important to our understanding of how the summit unfolded, but I don't think the White House had to work all that hard to draw a contrast with the Helsinki summit.
Yo, remember last time when Donald Trump went to this meeting? He pushed the president of Montenegro out of the way. Not like as dramatic as I did. He did it kind of like that, but it was a douche move. Oh my God! Everybody's like, how's Donald Trump gonna be at his first global summit? Trump was just like, yeah, I had 2 birthdays, one of my mom's and one of my dad's. And Biden's here just like being a powerful, humble leader. People are like, oh, Biden's a tool. You're a tool, dude. They're all tools. They have jobs. It's a job. Somebody has to be the president. And it can't be the arm wrestling champion, right? It should be. Should be Leonidas every time.
Of course, doesn't name Navalny by name. I think he called him the citizen that you name when he responded to a reporter's question. So if you could tell viewers a little bit about who Navalny is and why is this an issue that Americans should care about?
Oh my God, listen to this story. I was just going to tell you about this.
I don't think Putin has ever mentioned Alexei Navalny by name. That's been kind of a long-running tradition, and there's been a lot of different ways he's referred to him. But Navalny is, I would say, Putin's most critical critic within Russia for probably the past decade. And sorry, I saw someone at the podium and I thought I was going to stop. And he, I think he made his kind of fame here for the past really while kind of exposing Putin's corruption. You heard Putin mention a video that Navalny put out when he was still in Germany. That video was, exposing a palace that Putin owns on the sea, or Putin allegedly owns. That's, this expansive, lavish, billion-dollar property that was viewed, millions and millions of times in Russia. The YouTube video was. So that's embarrassing for Putin. I think that sort of thing is really what irked him. It was kind of all these videos exposing the corruption of Putin's inner circle, oligarchs that are connected to him, other politicians like Dmitry Medvedev. And, this all kind of culminated last year where Navalny was on a trip to Siberia, which would, vote out Putin's United Russia Party in local elections. He is poisoned on that trip and immediately says that Putin is the one to blame. Intelligence agencies later, said the same thing. That it was a hit ordered by Putin and carried out by the FSB, Russia's Federal Security Service. And, Navalny gets better in Germany, comes back, and that's when, you kind of see this latest chapter where he's jailed immediately upon his return, and there's mass protests in Russia supporting him. So why should people care? This is kind of the biggest example of Putin kind of not tolerating any real dissent. He doesn't let Navalny, he never did let Navalny or his allies run for office in Russia. He kind of just swiftly puts down any sort of political opposition point of trying to kill someone. So, today I thought it was interesting. He mentioned specific things about why Navalny is in prison, more so than he ever had before, referencing that he wanted kind of to be arrested. That was why he came back to Russia. There's no reason to know if that's true, but he also has used his geopolitical hostilities with, the U.S. and the West to, say that this is why, that's who's instigating the opposition. He referenced that again today, that Navalny and his team, they're working on behest of the CIA or U.S. security services, special services. And I think that's his way of kind of using any antagonism that he has with the West as his kind of rationale for why he puts down dissent this way.
And I just want to remind people who are watching
That lady just said,
President Biden to take the stage, take questions from reporters after his first summit with Russian President Putin. We saw a mic check or heard a mic check. So that usually is our indication that something might be happening soon.
What? That was dope. We heard a mic check. That means something should be happening soon. Yo, if I was Joe Biden, I'd still be in the bathtub. I'd be soaking, remembering all the kung fu movies I ever watched. Man, you gotta go up and defend America, right? You gotta go and defend this abomination of a nation state, right? You gotta go right now as Darth Vader. You have to go before the Galactic Council. Like, do I like Joe Biden? I like nobody. Do I respect Joe Biden? Medium. But it doesn't matter, because when you're the head of the empire, you're either Darth Vader right now or you're the emperor. Regardless, you have to go and lobby to the world on behalf of your Death Star and be like, look, our Death Star is cool. But Vladimir Putin poisoned the dude's underwear. And Vladimir Putin is like, don't say shit to me about the poison underwear until Black Lives Matter in your country. So now Joe Biden has to come and somehow reconcile or give a rationale for why Black lives don't matter in America, why we are over policed, why we have citizens in the streets just shooting each other, why we have people in trucks with giant Trump flags after the election, why we're on the brink of a civil war. And Vladimir Putin is like, bro, don't even talk to me about poison underwear. And you know what's crazy is they just said that Vladimir Putin doesn't use that dude's name, the poison underwear dude. I knew it 30 seconds ago. I don't want to be wrong. Let's see what the Wall Street Journal's got going on again.
These challenges on the home front.
Well, listen for President Biden to reprise his foreign policy vision. He's described it as a foreign policy for the middle class. He and his top national security aides said basically, we have to rethink the way we do foreign policy. We have to make sure that everything we do, we relate back to how it benefits Americans. You know, he did make some progress on this trip on a couple of big policy goals. There's that tentative agreement with the European Union and the G7 rather on the minimum corporate taxation. You know, that might help edge some of his proposals at home forward. Obviously, a show of leadership overseas, a show of strength overseas is never bad for you. I don't know that it's not like it's gonna suddenly flip a switch and everyone's gonna fall in line between the president's agenda. Of course, that's not gonna happen. But I think it's gonna be interesting to hear how he relates what he did this week in Europe on his first foreign trip, how he relates that to improving the lives of Americans back home.
And Olivier, one thing we didn't hear from Putin as a topic that was brought up, so we're not sure if it was brought or not, is election security. We were thinking that would be one of the agenda points for Biden to bring up in this. Do you think that that is something that he may highlight in the comments that he's about to make, that our intelligence,
come on, Joe Biden,
Russia as well as Iran was involved in trying to interfere in this last presidential election, the 2020. And of course, we had a couple years ago, the Mueller report coming out on the election concerns and interference by Russia in 2016. So is that something that Biden should also highlight? It sort of seems like it got lost in the talk of ransomware and Navalny. Isn't it?
Navalny, that's his name, Navalny.
It definitely is. I would say that it's wrapped up with the question of ransomware and the question of these extremely damaging infrastructure hacks. I think
Navalny. See, I was going to confuse him with Yevgeny. Yevgeny's the guy on the team. Navalny is the guy with the poisonous underwear. Could you imagine that? How cold is that, man? You know, Putin isn't like Joe Biden or like Donald Trump, right? Joe Biden and Donald Trump, well, Joe Biden grew up in a working class family, right? But he was just a normal dude. He just like went to normal school and did normal shit, then went to college and became a politician. Vladimir Putin is a killer. Vladimir Putin is a trained, paid, murderous assassin, military expert, former KGB member, former head of the KGB, I believe, who rose to power in dictatorial fashion and has had many of his political opponents disappeared. And so knowing this, Navalny was like, all right, Vladimir Putin's probably going to try to kill me. Check my coffee, safe. Check my water, safe. Check my food, safe. Let's get out of here. All right, let me just put on my underwear. Fuck, the old poisonous underwear trick. Oh, man. So for those just tuning in right now, wherever you are, if you're in the Facebook world, you should move over to urbansurvivorman.com. I know it's not as cool. I know it doesn't show up in my little Facebook numbers or whatever, but I'm not propelled by that. So let's just keep doing our job. And the best way to do that is to go to the home of the Aloha Wall Walker logo, which is urbansurvivorman.com. Or you could watch this on the 5XL, that's FM satellite television. Here, this is part of the Fuck 12 newsroom. We don't fuck around. I got so much branded shit. Man, I bet you by next year I'm going to have like 20 different companies.
We're just relying on their word.
Well, Rhonda, I think that this White House...
one more mic check.
The press coverage and the conversation coming out of it, they want President Biden to look like he was tough, to look like he didn't get pushed over, to look like he didn't give anything away. They want him to look like someone who's in charge and clearly alert and with the kind of with the program. They're very sensitive to box that Biden is 78 or 79 years old now, and so they're eager to show that he's over prepped. That he's intimately familiar with all the ins and outs of the policy.
That's what I'm talking about. This is Joe Biden's big moment.
USSR for an arms control conversation in 1979, that he understands these issues, and that is why they have done a pretty good job of keeping expectations in check. We didn't get a sense coming into this that there were going to be a whole lot of deliverables, and that's why some could say maybe this meeting wasn't totally necessary, but by grouping it together with the G7 summit and meeting the Queen and everything else, I think the American people, to the extent that they are following it, are going to see the whole picture of the last week, and it's going to make the president look like a statesman on the world stage. That, for the White House, is success.
Russian President Vladimir
That's so crazy to me.
About a previous meeting with President Biden in his remarks just a few moments ago.
Check this part out.
10 years ago, Joe
Biden called him soulless.
At the Kremlin, where the then vice president said he looked into the Russian leader's eyes and said, "I don't think you have a soul." The Russian president was asked about that exchange today and whether Putin thought he could work with Biden. And his answer was very interesting. Let's take a listen.
Listen.
As for looking to the eyes and seeing a soul or not seeing anything, it's not the first time that I hear that. To be honest, I don't remember such conversation, but I assume that it could have happened. If you ask me what kind of a person and interlocutor President Biden is, I can say that he is a constructive person, well-vetted and experienced, seasoned politician, and I expected that. He recalled his family and conversations he had with his mother. Well, these things don't have directly something to do with our business, but nevertheless, it shows his qualities and his moral values. It is all appealing.
It is all appealing.
I believe that we spoke the same language. It doesn't necessarily mean that we need to look into the eyes and see the soul and to pledge eternal love. We defend the national interests of our countries, and this relationship are always based on pragmatism.
Damn, he is a G.
So, Olivier, the "you don't have a soul" comment from back when Biden was vice president, as well as his comment earlier in his presidency saying that Putin was a killer. These are two exchanges we've heard a lot about in the last few weeks. Do you think it's helpful to the White House in presenting Biden as a tough figure on the world stage to note that he has been pretty consistent?
Hey, you know what? I say this about Joe Biden. I think he says fucked up shit when he gets a couple Bud Lights in him, right? Like, I think Joe Biden's a good man, but I think he gets a little wild. Like, you can't just say that another world leader doesn't have a soul. that's a little hardcore, man. You know, and he's an old ass dude, but old ass men think they can just get away with saying wild ass shit. That's why when I was younger, I used to have to slap a lot of old wild ass men. She's like, what did you just say? Did you just make fun of my rat tail, you old ass piece of shit? Nobody made fun of my rat tail. I was just making an example. Anyways, so for those who are just tuning in, catching up, figuring out what's going on, Vladimir Putin just dropped a dope verse on the world called "Hi, my name is Vlad." You know, I probably could have taken advantage and written a couple jokes of different things that Vladimir Putin could have called his thing, but the only jokes I can think of right now aren't really appropriate. So we'll just go with Putin on your mama, and that will be the only one we need, right? It's a beautiful day, by the way. We're still just waiting for Joe Biden to come in and have a rebuttal verse. But this dude that's kind of talking right now, he said a little bit ago, he said the White House's goal right here is to overcome the Fox News talking point that Joe Biden is too old. The dude said if Joe Biden seems alert, it'll be a victory for the White House. Oh, man. Joe Biden's got all the notes written on his arm. Hey, watch, though. Joe Biden does show up with notes. I ain't mad about that. I mean, I don't show up with notes. I freestyle every speech I ever gave in my whole life. Every speech I ever gave was off top. But also, I think that if I was 78 years old, I don't even think I'm going to remember my lyrics when I'm 48. Actually, I can't remember my lyrics right now. Okay, so I know this seems like we're kind of waiting, and we are kind of waiting. So what I can do in the meantime is I can see what other news might be going on in the world that we're missing, you know, right? What they say, oh, this is a distraction. This is a distraction. What are they distracting us from? Well, let's check. So I'll keep my eye on that Joe Biden. And then we'll dig into the news. Oh shit. Oh, double shit. Okay, I'm cool now. Oh shit. Yo, look at this headline. Yo. Look. A top headline on Fox News. I hate doing it, but whatever. I can't trust none of these news agencies, right? They're all crooked. So if you're like, Fox News, motherfucker, CNN's bad too. MSNBC's bad too. They're all bad. You know, people always want to think their side is the good side and the other side is the bad side. Yo, motherfucking Democrats lie just as much as Republicans lie. Motherfuckers live a collective lie. This whole world is a collective lie. Everybody on this planet is so like codependent for low quality intellectual and emotional reinforcement from each other, right? So look, that was a long way to say fuck off. I'm gonna read a Fox News headline because it's a good one. Look, American press manhandled by Russian security agents. Y'all want to chase that story? Let's chase that story real quick, shall we? Chase that story, Mr. Journalism Man. Make it easy for dumb people to understand. All right, let's see. Boop, 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 boop. Biden-Putin meeting. American press manhandled by Russian security agents. Media scuffle described by those in the room as chaotic. U.S. reporters and producers were aggressively pushed and shoved by Russian security officials Wednesday at the start of the highly anticipated meeting in Geneva between President Biden and Russian President Vladimir Putin. No, don't play that shit. Don't do it to me, Fox News. Don't do it to me. Oh, damn. Inside the room, Biden and Putin were seated with a small... Don't get fucked up. Oh. I did. Okay. So, don't play that. Russian security yelled at journalists to get out of the room and began pushing them, according to a TV pool report. This was met with screams from U.S. journalists and White House officials telling Russian security to stop touching them. Oh, my fucking God. We already lost. Bro, look, if you ever see me wild out on somebody and it's about to be in the news, please make sure you use the words holler, bellow, shout, yelled. Please don't tell anybody I was screaming. Like I saw a mouse and was sitting up on a chair like, eek. No, bro, I don't scream. But I am sure these people actually did scream. Russian security yelled. See how they did that? Russian security yelled because they're freaking Russians and Russians are badass. And they yelled at journalists to get out of the room and began pushing them, according to TV pool report. This was met with screams from U.S. journalists and White House officials telling Russian security to stop touching me. Oh, my God. We already lost the debate. We're losing the Arctic Circle. Oh, man. Yo, Putin just crushes us. But Joe Biden can do it. It's not over. It's not over. This has been, Joe Biden is on like some Ferris Bueller's Day Off shit right now, right? He's having like the most magical freaking year ever. He finally gets elected president. He finally gets to sleep in Barack Obama's room. Remember before Joe Biden got to become the president, he would try to sniff Barack Obama's room and Barack would catch him and he'd be like, Joe, why are you sniffing my bedroom? I'd be like, this is going to be my bedroom someday, Barack. I just want to know what it smells like. And then he gets elected president. He defeats first. Look how Donald Trump, look how Joe Biden. Look, I'm gonna stop this for a second. I'm gonna tell you something. Look how Joe Biden has boom pushed this, right? This is a real story arc going through right here, right? He loses his son that he loves, Bo, that he's always talking about, right? Lost his first wife. Grew up in a coal mine. I think he was actually like born in a coal mine, right? Grew up Scranton, Pennsylvania, steel workers, Amish people. Then he defeats Bernie Sanders. Then he defeats freaking Donald Trump. Then now he has to defeat Vladimir Putin, and he just defeated the coronavirus. Joe Biden is actually super crushing the world right now. There he is. I'm gonna get it louder.
Anyway, hello everyone. I just finished the last meeting of this week's long trip, the U.S.-Russian summit, and I know there were a lot of hype around this meeting. But it's pretty straightforward to me, the meeting. One, there's no substitute, as those of you who have covered me for a while know, for face-to-face dialogue between leaders. None. And President Putin and I had a unique responsibility to manage the relationship between two powerful and proud countries. A relationship that has to be stable and predictable. And we should be able to cooperate where it's in our mutual interest. And where we have differences, I want President Putin to understand why I say what I say and why I do what I do. and how we'll respond to specific kinds of actions that harm America's interests. Now, I told President Putin my agenda is not against Russia or anyone else. It's for the American people. Fighting COVID-19, rebuilding our economy, reestablishing relationships around the world with our allies and friends, and protecting the American people. That's my responsibility as president. I also told him that no president of the United States could keep faith with the American people if they did not speak out to defend our democratic values, universal and fundamental freedoms that all men and women have, in our view. That's just part of the DNA of our country. So human rights is going to always be on the table, I told him. It's not about just going after Russia when they violate human rights. It's about who we are. How could I be the president of the United States of America and not speak out against the violation of rights? I told him that unlike other countries, including Russia, we're uniquely a product of an idea. You've heard me say this before.
I was just going to say, I heard him say this before again and again. Keep saying it, Joe.
What's that idea?
This is beautiful.
We don't derive our rights from the government. We possess them because we're born, period. And we yield them to a government. And so the forum, I pointed out to him that that's why we're going to raise our concerns about cases like Alexei Navalny. I made it clear.
He's rambling now. He lost his point. Damn
We'll
it.
continue to raise issues of fundamental human rights.
Get back on speech, Joe. Get back on speech, Joe.
We hold these truths self-evident that all men and women, we haven't lived up to it completely, but we've always widened the arc of commitment and included more and more people. And I raised the case of two wrongfully imprisoned American citizens, Paul Whelan and Trevor Reed. I also raised
You got their names right.
Radio Free Europe and Radio Liberty to operate and the importance of a free press and freedom of speech. I made it clear that we will not tolerate attempts to violate our democratic sovereignty or destabilize our democratic elections, and we would respond. The bottom line is, I told President Putin that we need to have some basic rules of the road that we can all abide by. I also said there are areas where there's a mutual interest for us to cooperate.
Like the Arctic?
People, Russian and American people, but also for the benefit of the world and the security of the world. One of those areas, stability. You asked me many times, what was I going to discuss with Putin before I came? I told you I only negotiate with the individual. And now I can tell you what I was intending to do all along. And that is to discuss and raise the issue of strategic stability and try to set up a mechanism whereby we dealt with it. We discussed in detail the next steps our country should take on arms control measures, the steps we need to take to reduce the risk of unintended conflict. And I'm pleased you agreed today to launch a bilateral strategic stability dialogue. Diplomatic speak for saying, get our military experts and our diplomats together to work on a mechanism that can lead to control of new and dangerous and sophisticated weapons that are coming on the scene now, that reduce the times of response, that raise the prospects of accidental war. And we went into some detail of what those weapon systems were. Another area we spent a great deal of time on was cyber and cybersecurity. I talked about the proposition that certain critical infrastructure should be off limits to attack, period, by cyber or any other means. I gave them a list. If I'm not mistaken, I don't have it in front of me, 16 specific entities, 16 defined as critical infrastructure under U.S. policy, from the energy sector to our water system.
You don't need that list, Dumbo.
The principle is one thing.
Go off the
It has to
top.
be backed up by practice. Responsible countries need to take action against criminals who conduct ransomware activities on their territory. So we agreed to task experts in both our countries to work on specific understandings about what's off limits and to follow up on specific cases that originate in other countries, in either of our countries. There's a long list of other things we spent time on, from the urgent need to preserve and reopen the humanitarian corridors in Syria, so that we can get food, just simple food and basic necessities to people who are starving to death. How to build it and how it is in the interest of both Russia and the United States to ensure that Iran does not acquire nuclear weapons. We agreed to work together there because as much as Russia's interest is ours. And to how we can ensure the Arctic remains a region of cooperation rather than conflict. I caught part of President Putin's press conference, and he talked about the need for us to be able to have some kind of modus operandi where we dealt with making sure the Arctic was in fact a free zone. And to how we
don't let that mistake get in your head, Joe.
The shared effort of preventing the resurgence of terrorism in Afghanistan. It's very much in the interest of Russia not to have a resurgence of terrorism in Afghanistan. There are also areas that are more challenging. I communicated the United States' unwavering commitment to the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine. Agreed to pursue diplomacy related to the Minsk agreement. And I shared our concern about Belarus. He didn't disagree with what happened. He just has a different perspective of what to do about it. But I know you have a lot of questions. So let me close with this. It was important to meet in person, so there can be no mistake about or misrepresentations about what I wanted to communicate. I did what I came to do. Number one, identify areas of practical work our two countries can do to advance our mutual interests and also benefit the world. Two, communicate directly that the United States will respond to actions that impair our vital interests or those of our allies. And three, to clearly lay out our country's priorities and our values. So we heard it straight from me. And I must tell you, the tone of the entire meetings, I guess it was total 4 hours, was good, positive. There wasn't any strident action taken.
Good word.
I disagreed, stated where it was. He disagreed, he stated, but it was not done in a hyperbolic atmosphere. That is too much of what's been going on. Over this last week, I believe, I hope, the United States has shown the world that we are back, standing with our allies. We rallied our fellow democracies to make concerted commitments to take on the biggest challenges our world faces. And now we've established a clear basis on how we intend to deal with Russia and the U.S.-Russia relationship. There's much more work ahead. I'm not suggesting that any of this is done. We've gotten a lot of business done on this trip. And before I take your questions, I want to say one last thing. Folks, look, this is about how we move from here. I listened to, again, a significant portion of what President Putin's press conference was. And as he pointed out, this is about practical, straightforward, no-nonsense decisions that we have to make or not make. We'll find out within the next 6 months to a year whether or not we actually have a strategic dialogue that matters. We'll find out whether we work to deal with everything from release of people in Russian prisons or not. We'll find out whether we have a cybersecurity arrangement that begins to bring some order. Because look, the countries that most are likely to be damaged, failure to do that, are the major countries. For example, when I talked about the pipeline that cyber hit for $5 million, that ransomware hit in the United States, and I said, how would you feel? Ransomware took on the pipelines from take your questions, as usual, folks, I gave you a list.
Some of the ransomware attacks you just mentioned. Putin, in his news conference just now, accepted no responsibility for any misbehavior. Your predecessor opted not to demand that we stop these disruptions. So what is something that's concrete, sir, that you achieved today to prevent that from happening again? And what were the consequences you threatened?
Whether I stopped it from happening again, he knows I will take action, like we did when this last time out. What happened was we, in fact, made it clear that we were not going to continue to allow this to go on. The end result was we ended up withdrawing, they ended up withdrawing ambassadors. We closed down some of their facilities in the United States, et cetera. He knows there are consequences. Now, look, one of the consequences that I know, I don't know, I shouldn't say this, unfair of me. I suspect you may all think doesn't matter. But I'm confident matters to him, and other world leaders of big nations. His credibility worldwide shrinks. Let's get this straight. How would it be if the United States were viewed by the rest of the world as interfering with the elections directly of other countries? What would it be like if we engaged in activities that he's engaged in? It diminishes the standing of a country desperately trying to make sure it maintains its standing as a major world power. And so it's not just what I do. It's what the actions that other countries take, in this case Russia, that are contrary to international norms. It's the price they pay. They are not able to dictate what happens in the world. There are other nations of significant consequence, i.e. the United States of America being one of them.
Mr. President, just a quick follow on the same theme of consequences. You said just now that you spoke to him a lot about human rights. What did you say would happen if opposition leader Alexei Navalny dies?
I made it clear to him that I believe the consequences of that would be devastating for Russia. I'll go back to the same point. What do you think happens when he's saying it's not about hurting Navalny, all the stuff he says to rationalize the treatment of Navalny, and then he dies in prison? I pointed out to him that when a country, in fact, they asked me why I thought it was important to continue to have problems with the president of Syria. I said, because there's a violation of international norm. It's called the Chemical Weapons Treaty. Can't be trusted. It's about trust. It's about their ability to influence other nations in a positive way. Look, would you like to trade our economy for Russia's economy? Would you like to trade? And by the way, we talked about trade. I don't have any problem with doing business with Russia as long as they do it based on international norms. It's in our interest to see the Russian people do well economically. I don't have a problem with that. But if they do not act according to international norms, then guess what? That won't happen with us. It will not happen with other nations. And he kind of talked about that, didn't he, today? About how the need to reach out to other countries to invest in Russia. They won't, as long as they are convinced that, in fact, the violations, for example, the American businessman who was in house arrest, and I pointed out, you want to get American business to invest, let him go. Change the dynamic. Because American businessmen, we're ready to show up.
Hold on, I gotta just stop this for a minute. He really said, could you imagine if the United States meddled in other countries' elections? Oh my God, that was the craziest shit I've ever heard.
It's the way human nature functions. And understand, when you run a country that does not abide by international norms, and yet you need those international norms to be somehow managed so that you can participate in the benefits that flow from them, it hurts you. That's not a satisfying answer. Biden said he'd invade Russia. It's not, By the way, that was a joke. That's not true. But my generic point is, it is more complicated than that. David Sanger. I thought I just saw David. There he is.
Thank you, Mr. President. Discussion.
I'm going to show you something in a minute.
Talk about the two countries spilling down into a Cold War, and I'm wondering if there was anything that you emerged from in the discussion that made you think.
That's a dumb question. I'm going to get back to it in a sec, but I want to show you this graphic right here. Remember, I always got receipts for everything I laugh at. Boom, look.
Particularly a disruptor of NATO and the United States. And if I could also just follow up on your description of how you gave them a list of critical infrastructure in the United States. Very clearly what it was that the
Hello.
Did you leave that vague? Did you respond in any way?
Okay, let's get back to where I was. I'm just saying that's a lot of it's a lot of elections the United States is interfering in. And that doesn't count all the legally, democratically elected governments that we've overthrown after they're elected. That's just the elections we fucked with.
Number two.
Keeping it real.
I think that the last thing he wants now is a Cold War. Without quoting him, which I don't think is appropriate, let me ask you a rhetorical question. You got a multi-thousand-mile border with China. China's moving ahead, hell-bent on election, as they say. Powerful economy in the world, the largest, and the most powerful military in the world.
Okay.
You're in a situation where your economy is struggling. You need to move it in a more aggressive way than in terms of growing it. And I don't think he's looking for a Cold War with the United States. I don't think it's about as I said to him, I said, your generation and mine are about 10 years apart. This is not a kumbaya moment, as they used to say back in the 60s in the United States, like, let's hug and love each other. But it's clearly not in anybody's interest, your country's or mine, for us to be in a situation where we're in a new Cold War.
Yo, Joe Biden is crushing this press conference, but his shirt and jacket are so ill-fitting.
That does not mean he's ready to, quote, figuratively speaking, lay down his arms and say, come on. He still, I believe, is concerned about being, quote, encircled. He still is concerned that we, in fact, are looking to take him down, et cetera. He still has those concerns, but I don't think they are the driving force as the kind of relationship he's looking for with the United States. Jennifer Jacobs.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Not one time has Joe Biden complimented himself this whole speech, but it's so refreshing to me.
Also, President Putin said that there were no threats or scare tactics issued. Do you agree with that assessment that there were?
Let's apply the I and we test real quick.
And also, did you?
Right, that's the leadership test. Let's see how many times it says I versus we and when he says it.
Yes, and yes. Let me go back to the first part.
I'll give thumbs up if it's good, thumbs down if it's bad.
Is when the last time two heads of state have spent over 2 hours in direct conversation across the table, going into excruciating detail. You may know of time, I don't. I can't think of one. So we didn't need, as we got through when we brought in the larger group, our defense, our intelligence, and our foreign, my foreign minister wasn't foreign minister, my Secretary of State was with me the whole time. Our ambassador, et cetera, brought everybody in. We had covered so much. And so there was a summary done by him and by me of what we covered. Lavrov and Blinken talked about what we had covered. We raised things that required more amplification or made sure we didn't have any misunderstandings. And so it was kind of after 2 hours there, we looked at each other like, okay, what next? What is going to happen next is we're going to be able to look back, look ahead in 3 to 6 months and say, did the things we agreed to sit down and try to work out, did it work? Are we closer to a major strategic stability talks and process? Are we further along in terms of and go down the line? That's going to be the test. I'm not sitting here saying because President and I agreed that we would do these things, that all of a sudden it's going to work. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is I think there's a genuine prospect to significantly improve the relations between our two countries without us giving up a single solitary thing based on principle and our values.
I hate it when people say single solitary.
There were no threats. There were, as a matter of fact, I heard he quoted my mom and quoted other people today. It was very, as we say, which will shock you coming from me, somewhat colloquial. And we talked about basic fundamental things. And you know how I am. I explain things based on personal basis. What happens if, for example? And so there were no threats, just simple assertions made, and no, well, if you do that, then we'll do this. With anything I said, just
wrap it up, Joe. You're about to get wandery with your thoughts.
What I thought we could accomplish together.
Don't do it.
And what, in fact, if there were violations
short.
of American sovereignty, what we would do.
Keep it short. Yes.
No, he asked us about Afghanistan. He said that he hopes that we're able to maintain some peace and security. And I said that has a lot to do with you. He indicated that he was prepared to, quote, help. I won't go into detail now. And help on Iran, and help on. And in return, we told him a lot what we wanted to do relative to bringing some stability and economic security, or physical security, to the people of Syria and Libya. So we had those discussions. Yamiche.
Thanks so much, Mr. President. Did you say that you didn't issue any threats? Were there any ultimatums made when it comes to ransomware? And how will you measure success, especially when it comes to these working groups on Russian meddling and on cybersecurity?
Well, it's going to be real easy. They either, for example, on cybersecurity, are we going to work out where they take action against the ransomware criminals on Russian territory? They didn't do it. I don't think they planned it in this case. And are they going to act? We'll find out. Will we commit act in terms of anything affecting, violating international norms that negatively affects Russia? What are we going to agree to do? And so I think we have real opportunities to move. And I think that one of the things that I noticed when we had the larger meeting is that people who are very, very well informed started thinking, you know, this could be a real problem. What happens if that ransomware outfit were sitting in Florida or Maine and took action, as I said, on their single lifeline to their economy, oil? It'd be devastating. They're like, you could see them kind of go, oh, we'd do that, but like, whoa. So it's in everybody's interest that these things be acted on. We'll see, though, what happens from these groups we put together. The third one, yes, go ahead.
Mr. President, when President Putin was questioned today about human rights, he said the reason why he's cracking down on opposition leaders is because he doesn't want something like January 6th to happen in Russia. And he also said he doesn't want to see groups formed like Black Lives Matter. What's your response to that, please?
My response is kind of what I communicated, but I think that's a ridiculous comparison. It's one thing for literally criminals to break through cordon, go into the Capitol, kill a police officer, and be held unaccountable. And it is for people objecting and marching on the Capitol and saying, you are not allowing me to speak freely. You are not allowing me to do A, B, C, or D. And so they're very different criteria. Steve Holland, Reuters.
President Putin said he was satisfied with the answer about your comment about him being a killer. Could you give us your side on this? What did you tell him?
He's satisfied. Why would I bring it up again?
Boom, player.
Talk to him. Do you believe in trust him?
Look, this is not about trust. This is about self-interest and verification of self-interest. That's what it's about. So I almost anyone that I would work out an agreement with that affected the American people's interest, I don't say, well, I trust you, no problem. Let's see what happens. You know, as that old expression goes, the proof of the pudding's in the eating. We're going to know shortly. Igor, Radio Free Europe.
Is that the original etymology of that phrase?
Hello, Mr. President. Hello, Mr.
You want to go in the shade? You can't. Can you see?
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I think attacks in civil society and the free press continue inside Russia.
Yes.
For example, Radio Free Europe.
Yes.
Radio Liberty, Voice of America, Current Time TV channel where I work, branded foreign agents, and several other independent media. So we are essentially being forced out in Russia 30 years after President Yeltsin invited us in. My question is, after your talks with President Putin, how interested do you think he's in improving the media climate in Russia?
I wouldn't put it that way in terms of improving the climate. I would, in fact, put it in terms of how much interest does he have in burnishing Russia's reputation that is viewed as not being contrary to democratic principles and free speech. That's a judgment I cannot make. I don't know. But it's not because I think he's interested in changing the nature of a closed society or closed government's actions relative to what he thinks is the right of government to do what it does. It's a very different approach. There's a couple of really good biographies. I told him I read most everything he's written and the speeches he's made. And I've read a couple of very good biographies, which many of you have as well. And I think I pointed out to him that Russia had an opportunity, that brief shining moment after Gorbachev and after things began to change drastically, to actually generate a democratic government. But what happened was it failed, and there was a great race among Russian intellectuals to determine what form of government would they choose and how would they choose it. And based on what I believe Mr. Putin decided was that Russia has always been a major international power when it's been totally united as a Russian state, not based on ideology, whether it was going back to Tsar and commissars straight through to the revolution, the Russian Revolution, and to where they are today. And I think that it's clear to me, and I've said it, that I think he decided that the way for Russia to be able to sustain itself as a great, quote, great power is to, in fact, unite the Russian people on just the strength of the government. The government controls, not necessarily ideologically, but the government. And I think that's the choice that was made. I think I'm not going to second guess whether it could have been fundamentally different, but I do think it does not lend itself to Russia maintaining itself as one of the great powers in the world.
What? Did he really just hit him like that? Give it to him, Joe. Just dip. Why do you look like Mr. Leahy right now, though?
Today, did you, in terms of the red lines that you laid down,
Uh-oh.
is military response an option for a ransomware attack? And President Putin had called you in his press conference an experienced person. You famously told him he didn't have a soul. Do you now have a deeper understanding of him after this meeting?
Great question.
Thank you very much.
Look how Joe Biden just goes, boom.
No, we didn't talk about military response.
In the spirit, Mr. President, of you saying that there is no substitute for face-to-face dialogue, and also with what you said at NATO, that the biggest problems right now are Russia and China. You've spoken many times about how you've
Get out, Joe.
more time.
Get out, Joe. This is how you get shot.
Any other
Go.
leader. So, is there going to become a time where you might call?
Never rebook your flight. Go home when you're supposed to. Go, Joe. Go.
To the World Health Organization.
Go. You have a heart attack right now. Go. Put your glasses back on.
Straight. We know each other well. We're not old friends. It's just pure business.
So I guess my question would be, you've said that you were going to press China. You signed on to the G7 communique that said the G7 were calling on China to open up, to let the investigators in. But China basically says they don't want to be interfered with anymore. So what happens now?
The impact, the world's attitude toward China as it develops. China's trying very hard to project itself as a responsible and very, very forthcoming nation. That they are trying very hard to talk about how they're taking and helping the world in terms of COVID-19 and vaccines. And they're trying very hard. Look, certain things you don't have to explain to the people of the world. They see the results. Is China really actually trying to get to the bottom of this? One thing we did discuss, as I told you, in the EU and at the G7 and with NATO, what we should be doing and what I'm going to make an effort to do is rally the world to work on what is going to be the physical mechanism available to detect early on the next pandemic and have a mechanism by which we can respond to it and respond to it early. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And we need to do that. Thank you.
Go.
President Biden addressing.
Don't stop. They're going to kill you. Put the camera back on him.
This is a Washington Post special report. I'm Rhonda Colvin. Let's go now to Joyce Coe, who joins us from outside the White House. Joyce,
Joey B killed that speech.
Well, Rhonda, President Biden started off this press
Go.
conference by defending the principles of democracy.
Go, no.
And I think
Oh, shit.
a
Damn it, he's doing it. He's pointing the finger like an old man. Don't do it. Don't do it, Joe. Don't.
Is that the rest of the world reacts to them and it diminishes their standing in the world. I'm not confident of anything. I'm just stating the fact.
But given his past behavior has not changed, and in that press conference, after sitting down with you for several hours, he denied any involvement in cyber attacks. He downplayed human rights abuses. He even refused to say Alexei Navalny's name. So how does that account to a constructive meeting as president?
Great answer. Great question.
If you don't understand that, you're in your own business. It's a summit with
Oh.
Who we need to love quickly?
Go, Joe. Go. Run. Get him out of there. Who is your people? Get him out of there.
Saying, Rhonda,
Yo, his people are like the same people that let Mike Pence keep talking in Congress when they're already trying to hang him. They're like, kill Mike Pence. And they're like, it's still cool. Keep talking, Mike Pence. Okay, this lady isn't going to tell us anything.
That really seized gasoline operations along the east coast of the United States.
She's just going to restate what I could restate, but I think, right? Yo, Jesse, you ain't lying. Yeah, right? Boom. Okay. I thank you to the Washington Post. That's who we borrowed our coverage from today. Thank you. Oh, that's so funny. You ain't lying, Jesse Blackwood. 5 minutes later, and another thing, Jack. Yo, so hey, that was a great that was really cool. Hey, there was a moment when I actually got choked up because here's a thing, like, right, like I talk shit about the Patriots for the same, not the football team, well, the football team too, but I talk shit about the faux Walmart style Republican Patriots because they do the same thing that door-to-door Jesus freaks do, right? But that doesn't mean I don't love Jesus, and it doesn't mean I don't love America. And I really like what Joe Biden says about how America is rare because it's not founded on biological origins, or it's not founded on religious values, right? Like a lot of these other countries in the world are. And I'm massacring his point, but his point is that America is founded on an ideal, right? You're not a certain color if you live in America. You don't look a certain way if you live in America. You don't all believe a certain way if you live in America. but you buy into an ideal that all men and women are created equal, right? And so there's two Americas going on, which is crazy to me, because there's the America that you dream about when you're an immigrant, and it's the land of milk and honey, and it's the land of opportunities and mall kiosks. And it's what everybody dreams of, right? You get a vote, you get a job, you get neighbors, you get basic protections and basic human sustainable items, you know, like healthcare, kind of. It's not like living in the jungle, right? You come to America like Fievel. And then there's the America of reality, the America of what it looks like when you actually live here, which is just so different. Man, it's crazy because we were like founded by bad people with good values, right? Bad people using good values to get other people to buy into it. And of course, the United States is corrupt and our money's fake. And the Federal Reserve just prints it. We have inflation, and we have people sleeping in our streets while we give billions of dollars to dolphin testicle research in Sri Lanka. Right? And we give billions and trillions of dollars to other countries to buy missiles with. And we can't even take care of the young boys that we exploited to go fight our wars for us, right? All I gotta say is, one, fuck every president, right? That's just the line that we start from. Fuck every president. But man, it sure is nice to see a man like Joe Biden up there instead of a motherfucker like Donald Trump. It gives me a lot of sincere hope that maybe with the help of renewable energy exploration and funding, and with the emergence of cryptocurrency and blockchain technology, coming out of the darkest time that we've ever experienced in my lifetime, I have a more smidgen of hope for humanity and for this country than I have in, I don't know, a long time. So, man, they say don't hate the player, hate the game. So that's how we keep it real around here. Anyways, you know how we do. Yo, Dirty's in the house tomorrow. Man, I'm gonna just get out. Shout out to all our sponsors real quick. You know how we do, man. StandUpAndFightBack.com. Shane McLemore Toys Custom Action Figures, Fake Cracks, and Unblacked. They rhyme. Don't forget to stop by Essential Elements. I have so many birds right now. So many birds right now. It's amazing. I can even do a show. Okay, last thing. 2 last things, I guess. 3 last things. Join the Kudoken Token Discord group. Yo, I'm telling you guys, I know it's crazy. I know it's crazy. It's happening. Hey, it will be at the 2021 Las Vegas Cannabis Awards on July 10th. They say no dress code. I don't think they know what they're getting into. And last thing I want to tell you is today could be the day that you stop doing that self-destructive thing you do. Maybe even eating meat.
Oh, it's such a perfect day.
I won't do that to you guys. I won't do that to you guys. Just a little tiny bit, but I won't go all the way out and pull all the way on your heartstrings. Oh, and don't forget, with the weather changing, it's time for Antifa insurance. Hey guys, it's me, Jesse Spomberg, with a hot tip for you. If you're like me and you live in a rural community next to a lot of dry trees and there's tinder everywhere, you know the number one concern this time of year is Antifa. When Antifa comes and starts a forest fire in your neighborhood or tries to steal your RV or your favorite donkey, who are you going to turn to? Turn to my friends at United National Antifa Insurance. They'll get back your donkey, your four-wheeler. They'll replace any damage to your single wide, your double wide, your Wowza triple wide trailer, and give you a low deductible. Don't rely on your local militia to get your stuff back for you. Go to my friends at United National Antifa Insurance and make sure you protect your property. Yeah! And 33rd Bird Plaza. Here at 33 Bird Plaza, an outdoor bird food court, we have lots of wonderful selections. Stop by our peanut bar to get some takeout. Yeah, you don't need a mullet on your head if you have a mullet in your heart. Oh, let me say that again so that I can make sure to just click off of that. Right? Hold on. Look, you don't need a mullet in your hair if you hold on. Yo, check it out. You don't need a mullet on your head if you got a mullet in your heart. Sick one, polarized, UV, customized fashion eyewear for the sophisticated man. Yo, yo, yo. And remember, this is the way that gets better. Hey, guys, do you need highly versatile amphibious footwear, specifically real Crocs, but are terrified of falling in love with them? Because they're so awesome and you're afraid that you might become the guy that wears them to church or wears them with long pants? I got your solution like I always do. Get some fake Crocs. Fake Crocs brand, fake Crocs specifically. Don't get the fake Crocs. Get real fake Crocs brand, fake Crocs, because they'll break long before you have a chance to fall in love with them. Yeah, one more for the road. Also brought to you by Shane McLemore Toys and Custom Action Figures, where you will get kicked off Facebook if anybody catches you playing with them. They're not for kids. They say toys, but they're not for kids. Rationalize that however you want. You can find Shane McLemore Toys on Etsy, eBay, and Instagram. Just not on the Facebook, because that's where little babies hang out. All right, then. 5,000 G. See you tomorrow. Dirty's in the house.
I was going to win all day. I was going to win every day. I was going to win all day. I was going to win every day. I'm a champion, shining like a diamond. Call me Rocky, Muhammad Ali. On your box of Wheaties, Eric Cutter, Eric Magazine, second place, Mike. First,